So at CES, in the past several years, every year, incrementally, there has been more and more advertising agency, advertisers, and media companies from the television and video landscape than ever before. So while this is called the Consumer Electronics Show, it's become a huge business-to-business conference for advertising and media. So it is pretty interesting how that's evolved. And I'm talking about looking back 20 years and just the past few, what a significant evolution. I think the reason for that is that so much of the consumer electronic industry is intersecting with advertising and media. And it's becoming, just from a high-level perspective, difficult to delineate where does telecommunications, consumer electronics, media, and entertainment begin and end. It's kind of blurring, if you notice. Telecommunication companies, they have tremendous pipe. They're wireless carriers and operators. So are internet service providers. So are television distributors or MSOs. All of those are folks that could theoretically be involved in media and entertainment. Yet only a select few of those historically have been involved. So what we're seeing at CES is much more of the entire ecosystem getting interested in this media and advertising play. So for example, if I'm a wireless carrier, I typically make all my money off subscriptions. I'm not really on average globally in the content game, but if I have these pipes and all of my consumers are using these mobile devices through my subscription services and through my infrastructure, why wouldn't I offer them content with the opportunity for advertising to go along with it? And that's exactly the trend we're seeing. We're seeing companies that have never looked at advertising and media saying, how do I participate? Because everything I'm doing is surrounding that space. And of course, the biggest area of interest is in video, mostly because that's where the biggest dollars are. That's what plays greatest to the pipe deliverers with the bandwidth needs. And that's where the advertisers enjoy spending the majority of their money. So in the PC online video space, the IAB has done a great job with their VAST standards. We also have things like VPAID, and the opportunity to deploy those types of capabilities really makes it easy to scale. Now, the hard part is that everyone started on their own custom approach. So there was that adoption cycle. So over a 2 or 3 year period, there was this, oh, are you VAST compliant? Are you VPAID compliant? But like, for example, in the US, pretty much the majority is there. So that's been great. And therefore, from an online video perspective, it's been relatively easy to scale that because of the standards. Mobile, for example, has a long way to go on there. Now, if we could take a VAST or VPAID-like standard and deploy that into the mobile ecosystem for video, then we would have the same capabilities to scale video on mobile as we do on the PC. And that's happening, but it's early. The smart TV, similarly in my opinion, or the connected devices, however you want to categorize that area, also if we could just get an already established standard or one that's close to what's already established, implemented through that system, it would be very easy to go make these things happen. I do feel, and I do agree with Randall, that we need that standard, but maybe I'm giving the IAB more, I believe more in the IAB and what they do than maybe he does. I think they're going to nail it, and I think there will be a standard. There's a Smart TV Alliance that's developed where a lot of the the television manufacturers have joined. They're trying to come up with common standards. So there's a place to develop these standards, deploy the standards, and make them easily usable across all the stuff. That said, there's very little content on connected TV. It is so early. So I'm less worried in the short term about the standards. I'm more interested in how do we get more content in there so that it becomes a place that advertising dollars will want to migrate because the content is there. It's just not there. There's so much more content on the PC, and if the smart TV has access to all the linear feed and video on demand content, why would the content owners potentially cannibalize that business model by giving over the top access? So I feel that's where the battle may come. How does content get surfaced through these over-the-top channels when the current smart TVs are tapped into the same linear feed and video on demand things that make this industry all the money they make today? So we see two different migrations in this programmatic buying. One is the digital mindset, which has typically been one where I just want my campaign to run, and if it runs and meets my metrics of return on investment, I'm happy. I'm not committed to a volume or flighting requirement. And that's been the purview of what we call the manual or the real-time bidding programmatic buying. And the idea is that every impression comes in, I can go down and make a bid or not, and either I win or not, and the whole thing goes through. And that's great when you're in the Google mindset or the model of direct response for display, where you say, as long as it's a positive ROI, I'm fine. Fast forward to television, the big element that television advertisers need is flighted media. Lexus doesn't want to be competing on a second-by-second basis with some other advertiser and not know if their ad's going to show. They need to know that their ads are going to show when they asked for them to show in the places they want to. It's called guaranteeing the flighting or commitments. For that, the programmatic world is very different. You can use RTB-like sources, but for the most part, because television is very much dominated by the upfront, you actually have to use programmatic buying in what they call a guaranteed space. So what you do is you have to have guaranteed buys on a publisher. That inventory is bought and it will be used. But you use automation technologies and intelligence from the cloud that's deployed down to actually decide what ad at that moment gets placed. So one is an RTB approach where I may or may not get the ad opportunity. That's a digital mindset. The other one's a TV mindset which says I need to have that ad opportunity. I'm counting on it. I've paid to have that opportunity, but I want flexibility as to what ad to show based on all the available information that I may have at that moment. The latter is where we see tremendous amount of growth in the TV space and video in general, because the advertisers who spend the majority of video money want flighted media in the programs that they're used to buying on TV. And the one challenge with the programs they're used to buying on TV, that inventory is typically not available on a real-time biddable basis, because those content owners have scarcity. And they don't have, like the display publishers, tons of inventory impressions. So in the display case, they're more than willing to put their impressions in an RTB exchange. In the video place for premium content, they definitely do not want to put their impressions in an exchange. They actually want to keep them back for reservation-based selling for the direct sales team. So there's just not much liquidity for the television buyer in the online RTB space. While there's inventory, it's not what they're used to buying. It's a tipping point, I think. I think this is, we've all talked about the opportunity for television dollars, the big elephant of advertising, so to speak, to migrate into the digital world. We've seen a lot of evidence of that. We're finally seeing now, and I believe 2013 is a inflection year where you'll see television and digital planning happening up front together. And I think this is when that shift starts to happen. It's a holistic approach to media planning and allocation. What are my objectives, and which particular media choice can help satisfy objectives? And historically, they've been siloed. Traditional media, and even traditional media has been siloed. Digital's been siloed. Search, display, radio, TV. I think all that's going to be brought together conceptually, not all at once, but 2013 is that watershed year where we're going to see that happening throughout the agency holding companies.